There it is, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Arm Wrestling tonight. This is Hollywood Matt Connelly with the double bicep cities and the contractor legal requirement. Every single time we appear on camera, we are appearing on camera right this minute. Definitely not something I made up to show off my bicep of 24 years in the gym. The man to my left, it could be to your right, depending on what side of the screen you're looking at. Please turn it over. If there is no picture on it, you are looking at the back of the device. It is the co-host, the co-founder, the co-breather of air, the co-wearer of clothes in this very room. It is the master of disaster, the king of sting, the count of Monte Cristo. It is Thunderlips, the ultimate male. It is the Siberian bull. It is the winner of the Dave Stockbridge of the Year award, the illustrious award held by the illustrious man with the illustrious beard. It is none other than your friend and mine. It is Dave Stockbridge. Welcome to the show.
Wow, what an interesting last 24 hours it's been in the world of arm
What
wrestling
a
since
big
we were
week it's been in football. I mean, arm wrestling.
the world has, as they might say in Big Brother, everything has changed. But seemingly nothing at the same
It's
time.
exactly the same.
It's exactly the same as last week. No, that's not true. The world of arm wrestling, even very big. Oh, the rumor mill. Hollywood Matt Connelly, we were talking off air about the rumor mill. My goodness, the rumor mill's working overtime at the moment. They're literally they're clocking in extra hours at the rumor mill. Anyway, we'll talk a little bit more about that as people storm into the chat. We'll share some of the news with them. Very interesting. I'm still in the aftermath of King of the Table, and the discussion points have emerged around some controversy with respect to the refereeing, but I don't want to talk too much about the refereeing. I think people in the comments of the various videos that have come out since the event have really gotten into the weeds on that one. And knowing that you didn't care enough to actually watch the event, it's a bit hard to to get into that one in any great detail. But we did just before jumping into the podcast, we did just listen to the referees give their breakdown as to how the rules might go. So for the King of the Table event, and what was very interesting is that apart from the accent, the rules seemed just like AWE, but the same, but the England said they're different, and so very interesting. And so I'd like to get your thoughts on that, and further maybe some of the rules that Hollywood Matt Connolly's been working on in the background that he'd also like to see East versus West adopt. But one of the interesting highlights for me in watching that event, there weren't too many because it was, as I've previously described, and I won't extrapolate too much further, but I thought the event was a bit average, was the use of this symbol here to denote the appeals process being requested. Now, what is interesting about Turkey is that they do not play much cricket in Turkey, as far as I'm aware. And of course, people from the Anglosphere, people from the Commonwealth countries in particular, those that play cricket, would understand exactly what that is. Our Indian friends know all about that. That simply in the world of cricket denotes that there is an appeal over that particular decision. So in the game of cricket, which for our American friends is a little bit like baseball, but stretched out over 5 days. So if you, but there is a version of the sport that's a lot shorter. It's called one day because it's played over one
3
day.
days.
And then you got 2020 cricket, which is played over
20 years.
So it's a long version of the event. No, it's 40 overs. It's 20 aside, and it's sometimes called Big Bash or used in India, that format as part of their IPL. And there's been a bit of controversy over in India and Pakistan around that sporting event just over the last week or so, as a lot of people are aware. But this is what the umpire on the ground will that's the motion that they will make to signal to the match referee to review that decision. So what would happen in the game of cricket is that you actually do appeal. As a matter of fact, if you get somebody out and you don't appeal, you might not even get the decision that the batsman and it would be usually the bowler or a fieldsman would appeal. They would ask the umpire, was that out? And sometimes it sounds like, was that? It rarely does it sound like, oh, excuse me, was that one out? But it's normally like an appeal is, what's that?
Yeah.
And then the umpire to note whether or not, if it was out, if it was not out, what he will do is go. But if it is out, he'll raise his finger like this.
That's right.
And that's when you know the batsman's out. He's got to go back, and that's it.
That's his bags. He's gone.
And unlike a bag, he's gone. He's gone.
Get out of here.
So essentially, and in cricket, there's you only get one shot. So once you're out, you're out. You don't get three shots at it like you might in baseball, for instance. So that means you're out. But let's say the umpire gives it out. So and the batsman says, you know what, I don't think I was out. And it might be because he doesn't feel like he actually hit the ball and it's gone through and it wasn't, or he might feel like the ball wasn't caught or the ball hit the ground first. Could be any number of reasons. Then the umpire would then do this little symbol, and the match referee, the head ref, who's sat away in the grandstands, has I'd like to think multiple screens in front of him, and he's checking out every little angle just to verify whether or not it was in or out. And then if it's out, well, he'll signal to the umpires on the ground, and that decision will be made. And if not, well, the game will go on.
Les, usually Les that does that job, lesbian.
12th man jokes are flying today. Something else to explain to our non-Commonwealth friends later on. But so this is a very particular. So this is actually what we just naturally came to us at AWE2 when we instigated the appeals process, because we'd been in witness of Michael Todd's frustration, let's call it, at a previous event, and where he was definitely appealing, but kind of heavily influencing the decision-making process of the referees, and then appealing off the stage to the promoter. I think it was Engen, and just generally spending most of the time kind of arguing over the decisions. And we didn't want that, because we didn't think it was a good look for the sport. We didn't think there's another sport out there that would permit that. Certainly in our native sports here, like Australian rules football, there's no correspondence entered into with the umpires. Once they made a decision, that's it, and there's no argument. If you argue, you're sent off the ground. You're penalised. You could be not allowed to play for a couple of weeks, or maybe even longer. So we like the idea of not arguing with the authority. Once the decision's been made, you just you cop it. If you don't like the decision, you just move on, and that's the nature of how we like our sports played here in Australia. And so we adopted this cricket appeals kind of what would you call that, motion. So that's what we did with AWE. And so that's why it struck me as a little bit. I was a little bit curious how our Turkish friends had. But I'm sure they hadn't been watching cricket. I'm sure they hadn't been, but they certainly had adopted the AWE, which we've ripped off, of course, from cricket, as I've just explained. But they wouldn't have known that, and that's what got whipped out as part of the event. So very, very interesting that they've adopted that.
Also, in charades, they're either calling for the third umpire's decision, or they're playing charades and they've got to move. Like
it's a movie.
A TV show.
TV show.
Movie is this. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, that's right. Yeah, but that's correct.
Right.
So maybe that's what it was.
It could have been.
Maybe they got their inspiration.
Maybe they were doing charades and they just happened to get the camera on them as he was doing TV show.
Yeah.
And then he started smoking in the Bandit, and he had a cigarette. and then he was chasing himself. I don't know.
Yeah, and then but we
But
didn't see
no
that.
one could get that. They were too
No,
busy. They were like, "This isn't time. This is stop playing charades. What are you doing? We're trying to get the arm wrestling
because
happening."
this is no time for charades. I mean, this is serious arm wrestling,
Is
and
it
you should
Smokey
be.
and the Bandits?
I think I've been talking to you about this before. There's no time for charades on the stage when you should be doing the refereeing. So this is yeah. So anyway, there was a little bit of that, but also in the pre-event spiel from the referees, there was talk about micro fouls will just go on. We will not if there's no advantage. We just go on, and that's an interesting rule as well, isn't it, Matt?
Sounds familiar.
Sounds familiar. You might have seen that at an AWE event or two. And the straps. Once you're in straps, you that's it. There's no getting away. We'll stay in straps after this. After I'm in the straps, they stay in straps after, and this is very good. So very good. I'm very very pleased that these ideas of yours have been adopted, Hollywood Matt Connelly, and great to see them. Unfortunately, it doesn't make up for deficient refereeing, as it seems, and that's been the big chat in the arm wrestling world over the last 48 or so hours.
Yeah, well, it is interesting. I mean, that rumor mill, as you said, is always spinning, and the people that are out there seem to be upset with the refereeing from that side of things. But maybe if they were running with a different rule set, which is very similar to the way that we've set ours up, they're not used to running with that, or the crowd is not used to seeing fouls that are let go. They're used to a very strict East versus West style refereeing, and that sort of translated over to King of the Table. It was very, very similar. It was fairly strict. And so now if they're adopting looser rules, the fans might be going, "Oh, well, they did a terrible job. They missed all these fouls. They did this thing wrong." And it's like, well, they've changed the rules, actually. That's why.
Yeah.
So they actually did a really good job of enforcing the rule set that the promoter wanted. But from your perspective, you were expecting a different set of rules. So it may be a case like that.
And we have seen that with comments that pop up in the AWE videos, and people are being a bit critical of our referee Tim Graham, and Tim's not afraid to jump in the comments and fight it out with them either, and is always in there to explain to them that this is what the promoter wants. We're after a free flowing style of sport. This is the actual rule set, and sometimes you'll see somebody else will just chime in there and comment the link to the rule set so people can educate themselves a little bit more about that. But I think, moreover, in this case, it seemed like there's a couple of complaints from some of the athletes with respect to the setup and feeling like their hands were cranked. I've heard that now from a couple of athletes making comment with respect to that, and I believe there's been some injuries even come out as a result of that. But also some pins that weren't quite. They were a little bit away and they were getting called prematurely. There's a little bit of that going on. But anyway, I'm curious. We've had our rule set now at AWE locked in for a couple of years, maybe 2 or 3 years. Are there some rules that maybe you'd like to see adopted or that you'd like to just maybe like to see East versus West take up that maybe aren't part of our rule set currently?
I think maybe if we could get a moat and then fill the moat with crocodiles or alligators or both, hopefully. Electric eels, I'm not sure if they get along, but if we could get all three in there, then that would work fantastically. The competitors have to come from either side of the table, swim across the lake, fight the crocodiles to get to the table. If they do that, then they get the match started and away we go. But they want to get that match started quick because those crocodiles can climb up onto where they've got the table. So really speed things along. I think that might be a good one they could adopt.
And do you think if the moat was very, very like a very tight moat around the table, it would also mean that there was less dead time with athletes walking off to get chalk or relaxing in between? They'd want to, they wouldn't have, or if they did want to get the chalk or get a drink or get a little massage on their forearm, maybe they would have to swim back through that moat and pop out the other side and quickly grab fight off the alligator here, get a little of that, get a bit of a massage, and then make their way back.
Yeah, that's going to take up. You only get a minute, or usually a minute or a minute and a half. So you're going to be a strong swimmer, and maybe you're going to have to weigh up. Well, do I spend my energy in my rest time swimming and fighting crocodiles and electric eels to maybe get 10 seconds of a drink, or do I play it safe and stay here on the island?
Yeah, I mean, how big is this moat? So
it's big enough that you could get the table comfortably, both athletes, the referee, and the cameraman. But cameraman's going to be a bit elevated because he is not a victim in this, and if he happens to get eaten, we could get sued for that. So
it would be unfair for him.
If the other gets eaten, then they know what they're signing up for. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I mean, that's interesting. I do like that, but I mean, I don't know how maybe some of the sanctioning sports bodies might have some hesitations. We know how they get sensitive with concussions. I can only imagine how I guess sensitive they might be around large reptile attacks. But still, I think it's worth a go. It's worth. Anyway, anything else? Anything you've been just thinking of?
Yeah, I mean, you could light the table on fire or something, or have barbed wire. That's always good. Also, the competitors could. Oh, wait, did you see that they used to have that thing called X-Arm?
No.
Oh, yeah, this is maybe 20 years ago now, but they had something where it was just when MMA started to get really popular, and it was arm wrestling, but it was mixed with MMA. It was ridiculous.
Oh, yes, and so they were tied together, but then they're punching on at the same time.
Yeah, so they'd say go, and these guys just instantly just start punching each other, and then jumping into arm bars and stuff. The arm wrestling part of it was non-existent. It was just like, even if you pinned the dude straight away and he just jumped on your arm for an arm bar, they're like, oh no, it's whatever. It's so silly.
As Arm Historian has noted, now that's just sounding like an Arm Gods event.
It is.
Yeah, well, I mean, it seems that East versus West are stealing the ideas left, right, and centre. So maybe pinching some from Arm Gods is it's not the craziest thing that they'll do. So I like that. I like some of those concepts. And surely you've got a third idea in mind, something that you've just been working away, but you thought, no, that's too crazy. Dave's not going to go with that. Because I didn't mind the alligator and crocodile at the moat. We'll call it the moat suggestion. I didn't mind that one. I thought that was pretty good. So with the other one, are you still thinking? Okay, so that it's you punching on at the same time as arm wrestling. But the X factor is the table's also set on fire. Is that right?
Yeah, it could be that. Okay. And it's like sort of, you remember our Gladiators where they had that thing that would spin around? If they could do that, that would be good too. So then, like, if they don't pin fast enough, they're going to slide and start falling off, and they'll land straight back into the moat again.
Yeah, I like that. I do like that. I'd also like to see. I mean, we hear that arm wrestling is can be a bit boring, especially when it's under those strict RAF rules. One idea that I've been thinking of is you've got the table, you've got the athletes. Now they would have to be strapped up for this, of course. Because one, we'd want them to be safe, but two, there would be there'd be more of a propensity for the athletes to easily slip, and that'd just be boring to watch. But they're on the table, they're strapped up, they're ready to go, pushed out the back of an airplane, parachutes on the back. They're only allowed to pull the chute after somebody's been pinned, but only the person that wins gets to pull the chute.
Oh. Do they land in a moat full of crocodiles and electric eels?
That could be. Yeah, well, maybe. That's what. That's for the winner. That's
the winner.
Loser. The loser doesn't get to open their parachute, of course.
Of course,
yeah. So, but either way, very entertaining. Very entertaining.
It would be, yes. I would watch it.
Well, we will in about 3 King of the Table events, it seems.
One rule I would like to see, like, legitimately, is like just starting in straps. I think so much time is wasted. outside of straps. It's so rare that you see pins happen. It's like 90% of the time they slip. And yes,
Yeah.
you do every now and then see a pin, but it's usually somebody's tried to get away and somebody's just caught this part of their finger and they get pinned. It's not like it's an amazing match. It's very rare you get a real back and forth outside of straps. So yeah, I would love to see that as a thing. And we did that with our tournament. Was 2 years ago. It was the entire tournament was in straps, and I don't think we had it. I remember when I was editing it, and there was whole divisions of matches without a single foul. It's really weird.
Yeah. It is interesting. I mean, and it kind of gives rise to being able to get more in on, say, a televised event, because you don't have as much hassle around the setup. Although I will also say, just watching the edit of our last event again yesterday, there was a surprising little amount of that as well. Like the setups happened quite quickly, and although there was still a lot of slips, there wasn't too much going on there. Not too much dead time. It was actually really difficult to try and edit it down any further from where it was already edited. So it's very very interesting. I too would like that. I would also like to see. Like we had our last man standing event, and from what you were mentioning before, Arm Gods have recently gone down with a similar track with one of their recent events, and I think different formats of events are really where the sport needs to go, because something needs to happen that's a little bit outside of the musical chairs of super matches at some stage, and I think we've probably found that, and we're seeing this in the pay-per-view numbers tanking, just generally speaking. A lot of the pertinent questions in the sport of arm wrestling when it comes to super matches has been answered already, and because super matches have been put up on this pedestal as now being the elite way of determining an athlete's success, it also means that some athletes are turning into professional boxers in the way that they'll avoid matches in order to chart themselves a course to a world championship or a title belt or a better match next time. And so people that should be really active and testing themselves against different athletes are being more selective in terms of who their opponents are, understanding that in that super match format, if you have a few losses in a row, it can really dent your chances of getting a better match or being on a good promotion or something like that. And so we've got that traditional tournament play that it's not really watchable. It goes for too long, and you've got all the weight divisions, you've got right arm, left arm, and it's a little bit of a mess from a televised perspective. But there are different forms of the sport, or ways of being able to, like a 8-man double eliminator, for instance, where you can get a conclusion within half an hour or so, especially if it's first to pin, and that can be a really highly watchable version of sport. But last man standing, just a fun way to create more content, more opportunities for athletes to compete, maybe more money into the future as well. So and something where athletes don't have to worry about a loss affecting their opportunities into the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good point. That it's almost like, you'd love to see Levan pull every week, regardless as to whether it was a super match, a tournament, or a training thing, or something or another. Obviously, that's not going to happen because he would lose the value of his brand. When you see it too often. So he's being quite clever and quite selective with the matches that he is taking. But the activity factor for someone at the top end of the sport, the number one, he's taking on average, I guess it's one match a year at this point, which it's really quite low for
yeah. And we'd all like to see him do more. I mean, if we could have Levan in a last man standing style event, as a lot of clubs would run it as a king of the table style event, where everybody's going around, we just see how long it takes for Levan to get exhausted against club arm wrestlers. Like, does it take 10? Does it take 20? Can somebody beat him in an hour? if we could get a sponsor to put up $10,000 for Levan to get beaten in an hour by as many athletes as it takes, as quickly as we can do it, could we do it? And if not, does Levan win the $10,000? Like stuff like that. I would watch that. I don't know about you, but I'd watch that just to see him active in a well, I mean, it just answers another question, doesn't it? It's cool fun. So anyway, but have you heard the rumors?
I have, but why don't you say what the rumors are at this point?
I don't know. I don't know if I can say. But there's rumors. There's rumors. You know what I will say? I will say, watch Jake Ward's channel. I think keep an eye on that, and you'll get a bit of a sense as to what's going on in the rumor mill behind the scenes in the world of arm wrestling at the moment. But big things, big announcements. Jake's going to be back. Let's put it that way, and doing his thing. Of course, a lot of people might have noticed that he wasn't at King of the Table and hasn't been recently, and has not had the opportunity to do his thing around the world as he might have done a year or so ago. But I think you're going to find him back behind the mic, in front of the camera, and doing what Jake Ward does best. So maybe just if you don't already follow him, maybe just jump on there and subscribe and hit the notification bell, and I'm sure you'll hear something very juicy about what's coming up in the world of arm wrestling very, very soon. So things change. That's what I'll say. Things change very, very rapidly. It was only a couple of years ago, only about 3 years ago. I think it was July 2023, actually. So about 2 years ago now, that we had AEWE 2, and Todd Hutchins was our AEWE heavyweight champion, who walked away with the belt, and very within seconds of landing had signed the first of those exclusive contracts, and we've seen East versus West kind of take off from there, and so it just happened relatively recently, and but the things change just as quickly. It certainly, and now we're seeing not only is East versus West adopting our champions and making them their own, but they're also adopting our rule set, and making that their own as well, but albeit with a very thick Turkish accent. So, Hollywood Matt Connelly, should we jump into the comments before we go away?
Absolutely, yeah. So Taryn Broad is the winner of the first comment of the night. Congratulations to you, Taryn.
Yes, and he's injured, so to be that quick off the line is all credit to him.
That's right. He used the other hand, the healthy hand. Kiwi Sam is here. He says, "What's up?" He says, "Happy birthday to Grant Law," and Big Lesbian getting a mention. He did indeed. And Arm Historian says, "Hand pink waving as always." The Arm Historian, great to see you. As Kiwi Sam says, "As you Aussies hear it from us in Kiwi land, cricket for a number 6. This number sucks."
Cricket for a number 6.
Cricket for a number 6. Yeah, it's it's the evil spawn of the Australian accent. Is the New Zealand accent there. Dominic Lawrence is in. He says, "G'day all, and good to see you, Dominic. As always." Lagier is here. He says, "Hell." Hell, and then he says, "Oh." So it's either hello or it's hell and oh. The historian, we were talking about the X-Arm event. He says that Cobra Rhodes was quite involved with promoting that one when it was around. And the AWI used to start in a power hook, aka deep inside. There we go. And Francois Stipp is here. He says, "Hello, gents. Arm drunk is good. Arm drunk is good. It's Groot. Arm drunk is Groot. Is from South Africa there, Francois. And he says we are doing well, and they do a double elimination followed by a round robin. The bigger athlete gets tired, And he is very excited to see the small athletes do well. And Phil Woody is here from the UK. Hello to you, Phil. All right, there we go.
There we go. Well, thank you everybody for joining us in the comments. Stay tuned, buckle up. The big things happening in the world, mate, and obviously you'll start seeing some happening around the tables at East versus West very, very soon. So we'll stay tuned for that. And if you have any rules that you would like to see incorporated in AWE matches, then certainly make those suggestions in the comments over the coming days, and we're sure to give it all a lot of thought. And tell us what you thought of Matt's ideas as well. There, I think they've been simmering away for some time. Certainly not made up just off the cuff in the last few minutes in the lead up to this particular podcast. Certainly not. There's been a lot of due consideration given to all of those concepts, and we do suggest East versus West to grab all of them with both hands and make them work with Robert Baxter's money. Get those crocodiles, get those alligators, get the moats, don't forget the eels, and make it happen. It's just a thought, an arm wrestling table where you got the pads all as usual, but instead of having the table top, you have a sack underneath, and that sack contains venomous snakes. And so if it's taking too long.
So the setup, you want to get that match done very, very quickly if you knew you were about to get eaten by either a crocodile, an alligator, an electric eel, or a venomous snake.
Yeah, and just in case somebody does drop into a king's move, the ref can just simmer up the snakes a little bit, give them a little bit of a hurry up, and anyway, some extra ideas. Before we go away, Hollywood Mate Connelly, any further thoughts?
No, I think we're happy with that. Thank you again to everybody in the comments, and we'll be back with Arm Wrestling tonight. Probably Friday, I think, at this point.
Yeah. We'll be back.
We'll be back. Or you be back too. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.